So I'm an entrepreneur. I've spent most of my life building businesses. I've done 11 companies in six different countries. I sold eight along the way. If I was in the US, I'd probably be a very wealthy man. I'm in Europe, so I'm doing okay. And about 10 years ago, somebody asked me if I'd like to teach. And I said, oh, shoot, who wants to teach? And it actually turned out that I enjoy teaching a lot. And I recently set up a foundation to teach innovation and entrepreneurship. It's designed to teach what I'll call the motivated many. So I have the fortunate few, which are the people I teach at London Business School, leading business schools in Europe. And the motivated many are the people in Pakistan, Nigeria, and things like that. And I'd like to reach 1 million people there. And one of the things that I try to do that is put together presentations which are packageable and runnable on the internet. So today, what you're going to see is the second run of a talk. And I'm hoping that what you'll be able to do is give me feedback. I hope you'll learn from it as well, and that we can learn from each other. And I just noticed that I've got the wrong presentation up here. Shit. Hold on. So I've got one which is a really long document, which is all the versions of this. And and that should be the right one. So, sorry about that. Sorry about the. So, how many of you are artistic fans? Uh,
Me?
so you're going to do a test today. I'm going to see if you get it right. You're going to have to pick whether something is a Picasso or not, because we're going to have AI that's drawn some drawings, and that'll be kind of fun. I actually wanted to be an artist. That was one of my first things that I thought I would be when I grew up. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough, but we'll hear about it. So, according to McKinsey, less than 1 in 10 people using AI are getting any measurable benefit from AI. And that sounds pretty horrible when you look at all the stuff that we're talking about and all the things that people are doing with AI. And I think the biggest reason is people are using AI wrong. And if you want, I've shared the links to the slides in the talk. You can download them now. You can download them at the end if you decide they're any good. But basically, what I want to do is give you a different approach to using AI, and hopefully that will stick with you. Um, so when I was young, I wanted to be an artist, and I want to be an artist like Picasso. I love to draw. I was good, but I was horribly slow. And sometimes I wonder maybe I was born too early because today AI might be the muse I needed to produce art better, faster, and easier. Now, Picasso was famous for looking for inspiration anywhere. His muses helped him a lot. He'd sit in his studio, brush in hand. Before drawing anything, he'd say, what am I not seeing? What else could this be? Is this the right place to start? Of course, the muse didn't paint for him, but she challenged him. She reframed the problem, unlocked new ideas. And actually, what you see is today, we have an opportunity for all of us to have a digital muse. And the good news, you don't have to haunt Paris, look for divine inspiration. You get a muse that never sleeps, never gets tired, never gets cranky, never leaves you for your local art dealer. Now, my story starts with AI in kind of a funny way. I think experts in AI right now are just 1 week ahead of everybody else because things are changing so much so fast. I had a pretty tough wake-up call. I spent about 5 years putting together a book. It was research-based. It brought together 22 experts. It was the book that I wanted to have in the courses that I was teaching. And I thought it was a great book. And I thought Cycles was going to be the go-to book for companies that wanted to innovate faster while reducing risks. It won a few awards. It made it to bestseller lists even in countries like Brazil, which is kind of funny because the book is translated in Portuguese and Spanish. And we were ready for champagne and celebration. And then something happened. And that thing was ChatGPT. And everybody was talking about AI and how AI can be used for innovation. And if I open up my book, AI isn't even listed in the index of my book. So I felt a little bit like I had opened the most beautiful video rental store right after Netflix launched. And I needed to fix things and get going in the right direction. So I went back. Um, one of the things that you don't know about teachers is a lot of the reasons they like to teach is they like to learn. And I like learning. So I decided to go backwards and learn all about this thing called AI. And like an over-caffeinated entrepreneur, I took classes, I went and did research, I poked around inside companies to ask one basic question. What happens when you drop AI into a team trying to innovate? And sadly, it's not what you'd always expect. So I started writing up these ideas in a new book called The Generative Organization, which will come out in July. It's a little bit different than my first book because it's much more hands-on. It's actually filled with prompts all the way through it. It's still backed by facts and it's written by 32 experts. And it's all about how do you use AI to innovate faster, better, and easier. Now, if I look at innovation, most innovation boils down to three things: doing what you do better. Picasso was great at this. He mastered classical techniques before he broke them. Building deep connection, he learned about his subjects obsessively, and it's about inventing something new, which is basically breaking things up and trying something different and a different way of doing it. Now, AI can help you in all these areas, but the third one, that leap, that's where the muse lives. And that's where generative AI changes the game. Now, generative is kind of a funny word because I had to look it up a few different times. The best definition I've seen is something like this. Generative describes a system whose core function is to create novel outputs rather than merely select, retrieve, or replicate existing ones. It's about systems where people are working together, and it might be AI working with humans to build better solutions. And I think everything we do is going to be generative. Hence the name of my book, The Generative Organization. Now, one of the most important studies I did was on idea generation with AI. We generated 5,402 ideas with humans and AI. And I'm curious, does anybody have any guesses on how good AI was at generating ideas? Was it equally good as human beings? Was it better? Did it just generate a lot more ideas? What do people think? I can see people in the top of my screen, so I can ask those people. Rick, what do you think? AI generating ideas, better or worse than humans?
It's better at empathy nowadays. It's better at social engineering.
Hmm.
It's good at iterating. It's a mirror or whatever you put into it, is the way I feel. So I put in a lot and it brings back even more. It makes my words sound prettier. It makes my thoughts be iterative. I always ask the question, what did I not think about? And
Huh?
that generates a lot of conversation. Or talk to me as a Socratic foil. Tell me what I'm not
Are you an
what I'm wrong about.
are you an educator?
Yes, I've
See,
written 27 books on photography and have a master's degree in MFA in photography, and working on A Rocket Ship for the Mind. It's a 400-page book right now about educating using AI effectively.
you're using it different than most people are using it.
Yeah,
In fact, already the fact that you'll question AI and say, "What are you thinking about?" shows that you see it different. And I think because you're a creative,
yes,
you probably use it for what you can and you ignore the downfalls a little bit because you say, "Oh,
correct.
cool stuff." So let me give you the bottom line here. When we looked at building ideas, AI builds a lot more ideas a lot faster than human beings. No big surprise there. But the big surprise is actually it built better ideas. And let me tell you how much better the ideas are. So remember, we had this total of 5,000 ideas. The reality is nobody wants or needs 5,000 ideas to do anything, unless it's perhaps to explain to your wife why you're late again. But, even 5,000 won't get that through. So what we decided to look at is not all the ideas, the average rating, but we said, look, where is the top ideas? Where are the top 5% of ideas? And we had all these different methods of generating ideas, and we looked at the number that fit in the top group. And the number for human beings is they were able to generate approximately 1.4 top ideas per 100. Not bad. If we looked at human beings with ChatGPT and say, look, we give them a structured prompt and tell them what they're looking for, the number went up about 50%. When we looked at adding what I would call sophisticated methods of using AI, which is combining method expertise with AI expertise, the results are dramatically different. If you look at tools like Scamper, Creative Combinations, and the one that's the winner here, which was Triz, they were getting 7.5 top ideas per 100 generated. This is not just more ideas, but 7.5 times more good ideas per 100. So if you have 100 ideas, not only do you get them faster, but you get them better. Now, I said, wow, this is fantastic. My life as an innovator is set. Everything's going to go forward. But the reality is very few companies are getting good results. And the issues around AI are typically around how we use AI. And we have some predictable faults that we make in the way that we work as human beings. And we tend to carry over those same mistakes when we work with AI. Now, I'm not saying that you do all these things, but I'm willing to bet that at least one of these will ring true with you. So there's 6 areas that we make mistakes. One is overconfidence bias. We trust AI too much, and when it sounds confident, and it usually does, we accept what it says. Unfortunately, sounding smart is not the same as being right. The second is present bias. And this is probably my biggest weakness. As an entrepreneur, I'm excited. Yeah, baby, give me a good result and we're ready to go. And we love quick wins. And we thought, wow, that's amazing. And we move on and we stop digging around to get depth and originality. We have something called automation bias. And that is we like to trust systems and automatic solutions. If AI says it's right, it must be right. But too often, much too often, we defer to machines when they're clearly wrong. In fact, there's a lot of studies showing that, in fact, even when AI gives you the wrong answer and people know it's the wrong answer, they still accept the answer from AI. Cognitive offloading. Whenever you work in a group, we tend to rely on others to think. When AI is thinking, we say it's okay and to turn off our brains. So we stop thinking, people settle, especially when we're under time pressure. Authority bias is we love to put faith in experts, where AI is the ultimate expert. So we say, okay, this is fantastic. So we overtrust and we forget that often we're more of an expert than AI is. And lastly, this is the biggest human weakness we all have. In every part of our life, there's a bit of confirmation bias. We tend to see what we want to see. Sometimes we'll just keep on prompting the AI until it gives us an answer we want. Or worse yet, we simply interpret the answers in the way we want them to. Honestly, that's not working together, that's working alone. Now, what I'd like to do is I would like to do a little poll. So we got this thing that we just looked at, and I'd like to see how many of you actually do any of these things with AI. So first one is, are you sometimes overconfident in what AI gives you? Do you accept things too easy? Do you defer to machines? Do you stop thinking? Do you put in rely on AI as an authority? And do you look for confirmation bias? Renata, I'm betting you're checking all of these. I'm seeing you laughing and saying, oh shit, boom, 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 boom. So I don't think you see the results coming in. I see the results coming in. Automation bias, nobody there. Oh my goodness. Okay, keep on going for just a second. You can see how your results compare. So we're going to have a storm that's coming through in Brussels in just a few minutes. So I close my door for just a second. Okay, let's see what we have here. So did anybody have zero ways that they're using AI wrong? If you did, put it in the chat. If you are unique and different. Uh, so the most common here was confirmation bot was overconfidence, present bias. We've actually done the same thing uh, with a group, a larger group, and I'll show you the results here in just a second. So we did a group with 52 users. No one had zero biases. Nobody. Or else they just didn't answer. And on average, they had 1.9 on average. Oh shit, I forgot to share the results. I saw the results, but you guys didn't see the results. So these are the results coming in for you. And nobody here chose automation bias. Maybe it's because I didn't explain it very well. So maybe it's not that you're getting it right, but we don't have. Is the poll off the screen right now? Is it closed? Yep. Okay. So what you see here is the big thing here is confirmation bias. And the reason confirmation bias is actually it's something we just do all the time. But if I was to summarize it, probably a little bit differently, it's just basically satisficing is good enough. We stop thinking and we basically use AI. We don't work with AI. Um, so if I'm honest, most professionals use AI like a fancy search machine. They write better emails, they make faster slides, they move on. People are using AI and seldom really working with it. But there's some people who get a lot more. They're hesitant to put too much faith in AI. They keep their brains on. They don't see AI as all knowing. They don't see AI as a replacement for human thought. And these are the people who work with AI. They work with AI a lot like Picasso might have worked with his muses. They ask for answers, but more importantly, they use them for inspiration. They use them as a creative partner, and they work with AI to find answers. Quite simply, the real change that can happen is if you stop seeing it as an answer giver, but as a muse, which is what Rick is doing, you'll see much better results. Now, when I see is sorry about this. It's if you're in Brussels, you'll see that there's a storm coming through, and I'm trying to figure out how to manage this. Uh, so too many people are in the search for the magic bullets. When I go on LinkedIn, every time I turn around, somebody's got this new agent or this mystery prompt, this fantastic thing that's going to make everything easier. Um, in fact, what I think you need is less magic and more principles, because when you have principles, you will do things different. And when you work with principles, it doesn't matter which tool you're using, you will always get better results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a set of principles. And I'm going to use a word which is sparks. I love the word because sparks of insight are really closely tied to innovation, which is sort of my heart. And just like back in school, we're going to do something called an acronym where each letter stands for an important principle. And we'll go through them one by one. So the S stands for speak it out. which is about getting in the flow. Now, I can't imagine Picasso ever writing a memo to his muse. I can't imagine him sending an email. I can't imagine actually writing something down. And the reason why it's easier to talk and it's more fluent to talk. And a lot of times, what typing does, it blocks our mind. Instead of typing your next prompt, try to talk it out loud. And the reason why is when we talk, we think different and usually. And talking's not a gimmick, it'll get you in the flow a lot quicker. Now, let me give you a story here a little bit. And that is if you look at, Picasso, he had a series of 15 paintings. The most expensive ones are in his series called La Femme d'Alger. It started with the painting that you saw on the left-hand side, which is by Francois Guillot. And rumor has it he would go to the Louvre once a month and sit and talk. And he would talk with the painting. And here's something I could imagine him talking about. I said, look, God, I keep thinking about that damn Delacroix painting. It's all cushions, curves, and quiet secrets. They're too perfect, too finished, like a stage play, everybody in place, everybody behaving. I want them alive. I want to break things down. I don't want a harem where everything looks wonderful. I want the elegance to unravel, the curves to cut them, the bodies to flatten them, to explode them. And I want color. God, I want color. I don't want these muted safes and browns. Now imagine that was his conversation. His muse might actually be able to put it together into something clever. Um, AI can do the same type of thing. You can use AI to summarize your thoughts, and you might say something like, help me organize my thoughts and write a prompt to make a painting like I would like to make. And for me, this is just amazing because when I look at the artistic style of, and I'm using ChatGPT here, it actually sounds like a human being in a lot of ways. So I gave it that conversation and I said, can you give me a prompt back which might be used to create a new painting or a new version for my next drawing? And here's what AI gave me back. Create a painting that begins with a classical scene of stillness and beauty, a room of reclining figures richly adorned like Delacroix's Women of Algiers. Now destroy it. Fragment the bodies, twist the lines, let the background swallow the foreground, use violent colors. It must still be human, it must be reverent, but it must wrestle with its past. Make the painting feel like it survived an explosion and it's still alive. Now, when I see this, I think this is pretty good. Now comes your first test. And I should do it in a poll because it's more fun. So one of these is a Picasso. One of them sold for $32 million, and one of them is not worth 32 cents. My question for you, one is designed by AI and one is designed by Picasso. Which one is the Picasso? Is it A or B? Renat, what do you think? You're on mute, so I have to unmute you here.
A is a Picasso.
A is a Picasso. Okay. Margaret, what do you think?
I agree. I think A is Picasso.
Good God.
Wrong?
You're both wrong. No, it's not true. You got it right. So A is the Picasso. Typically, when I do this in a large group, it's about 60-40. 60% get it right, 40% get it wrong, which is a little bit better than chance. Now, what I find interesting here is how you can take that conversation and let AI work something out for you. So my message for you, first of all, if you want to use AI different, is talk with it, get your thoughts flowing, let AI figure out what you want to say, and then go forward with it. In practice, where I see this working really well is I look at people making startup pitches. Startup pitches usually sound horrible. I worked with a girl who made a horrible pitch, and I said, look, what I need you to do is just talk through your pitch, record it, and keep on recording and keep on recording until you get it right. And after 3 times through, she got a good pitch that sounded like her. There's even a tool which I found recently, which I'm going to buy, which is called a whisper ring, which is an AI device you can whisper into while you're walking, talking, cooking, all those type of things, and using talk as a primary communication. And now, actually, what you'll see is ChatGPT has gone all in on this. They've actually changed everything around to make talk the primary interaction method. The second letter is for P, which is about pivoting roles, because questions are often better than answers. Now, Picasso didn't always paint the same way. Sometimes it was cubist, sometimes it was classical, sometimes childlike, sometimes they didn't know. And a lot of times what he would do to get started was just ask his muse to ask him some questions. And you can do the same with AI. You can tell AI that you're working on something and ask AI to ask you questions before you get started. So what I've got here is an example of a talk Picasso might have had with AI or his muse. And it says, AI says, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Tribute, rebellion, reinvention, or something else? Picasso says, I want a tribute. Question number 2, what are you paying tribute to? His technique, the fantasy, the composition, or just the feeling? He said, no, I like the feelings here. I like what it makes me feel. And how are you working on that? Well, I'm tearing things apart, trying to see things from every way. So based on this series of conversations, you could say, based on my conversation right now, give me a new prompt or a new idea on how I might do this. I just saw your text coming in, Rick. So Rick, so this is what came out when you ran the prompt. Okay, so when you're done answering the questions, you can get a prompt. So what we look at here is a prompt that came back, which is starting again with this. And the feedback that comes back is actually AI is interpreting the conversation you just had. And here again, we have AI generating 2 images. I'm going to ask the question again. Is it A or is it B? Bryan, A. Rick, what do you think?
B. Second.
B.
B. It's B. You think?
Jennifer, what do you think?
I chose A just to shake it up this time.
And I'm sure you have a pretty good reason why this looks like a Picasso, yeah? So let me tell you, it was actually a trick question because neither of them was a Picasso. But my bet is you thought one of them could be. And I think what's interesting there is not how good AI is, but the fact that AI can trick you a bit. Now, in practice, what I see is a real power in letting AI ask you questions to get started. And if you want to have a mind-altering conversation with AI, take a picture of this screen and run it. The prompt is, I'd like your help figuring out how I can best use AI to support a project. You describe your project a little bit. Have AI ask you questions one at a time about your goals, current processes, and constraints until you have enough information to give me a few obvious and a few non-obvious AI recommendations. This will take you about 10 minutes, and I guarantee it'll be one of the best conversations you will ever have about your work. Okay, next one up is asking for more. In fact, the strongest button in AI is not the first time that you click, but it's refresh. Go back and do it again. Generative AI is not like your typical muse who only has one idea in his or her head. It's a muse that will continue asking questions, answering questions in a different way every single time. Now, the most expensive Picasso artwork ever was his 15th in that series. Now, it might have been perfect, but what you could do is you could say to AI, give me more, give me more, give me more. and say, look, I'd like to have three different versions of this painting. One is a primitive painting, one is like Matisse, and one is like a bug might see it through kaleidoscope eyes. Personally, I don't find any of these are great, but I think what they are is inspirational. And what's cool is it takes 3 minutes, where for each of the paintings in the series that Picasso painted, it took him a month to a month and a half. Now, if you want better ideas, the trick is not to accept the first answer unless it's great. And what you need to do is keep on asking for more. In practice, I worked with a retail team trying to design a loyalty program. When you ask AI to give you ideas for a loyalty program, it's pretty yawn, it's pretty boring. I'll give them points, give them rewards. All right, all right. Give me 10 more that are less obvious. And they're a little bit better. Give me 10 more which are completely backwards, which are based not on reward, but on regret. And what they ended up with is a new campaign where customers saw what they missed by not buying instead of the rewards that they got for buying. Now, the magic here is not in the AI, but the fact that you keep on asking questions. R, when we're almost at the end, is about reframing, because each time you ask a question in a different way, you get different answers. Now, Picasso didn't ask what I should paint. He would ask a framing question. How could I see this from a different perspective? How could I do this? How could I feel this? And you probably can and should use that in AI. We ran a study where we looked at the predictor of the number and quality of ideas. And the best predictor is not the quality of the people, not the quality of the method, but the number of questions that they asked. Because every time you ask the same question, you get the same answers and you run out of ideas over time. But when you ask your question different, you get different answers. So if you try something called HMW, and I don't know, does anybody know what HMW stands for? It stands for how might we? How might we do this different? How might we do that? And for example, I was working with a hospital and they were trying to figure out ways to speed up discharge. So we reframed the questions, not how do we speed up discharge, but how might we make home safer? How might we make home faster? How might we make it more joyful instead of tolerable? When you do this and you flip the canvas, you get different results. And what they ended up with is remote care options that reduce the cost of stay by 22%. So each time you get a different perspective, you get a different answer. Now, K is for keep going, and you have to challenge what you do. Great ideas don't usually land in the first run. Rick, if you're a photographer, you know that. The first photo, maybe your first photo is fantastic, but you come back to it usually. In fact, there's a big study showing that, in fact, if you want good photos, what you need to do is take a lot of photos. And too often we get excited by the first results. And that's what Herman Simon calls satisficing. There is a definition I love of creativity that comes from a book called Idea Flow. And by the way, if you ever have a chance to read it, it's a very good book. And Jeremy Utley quotes a 7-year-old child saying, "What is creativity?" And creativity is doing more than the first thing that you thought of. If you keep on asking, what did I, how am I missing? How can I see things different? You'll get there. In this case, a question you might look at, please give me 3 ideas on how to change this painting around. Give me better ways to express the painter's viewer's longing for love. Give me detailed comments and ideas and provide ideas one by one. And what we got out of this is a series of ideas. The one that came out that I liked best was called The Mosaic of Desire. And it was a romantic cubist approach. We had the painting that came out on the right-hand side. I personally find it a bit cheesy with the little hearts on the nipples and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if you look, it does look like stuff that Picasso had drawn. And it's not the question of whether it's good or bad, but whether it gives you ideas to make something which is better. And the reality is, with AI now, everyone is pretty good, and exceptional takes a lot more work. You need to generate a lot of ideas. You need to keep on asking. You need volume. You need variation. And what I see is that the companies that get there are asking a lot of questions. Now, I'm going to quote a company here that I didn't work with, which is Moderna, but they used AI to improve their mRNA. With each round, trying to I evaluate, and improve, and they finally got to something that's good. Or you can look at what I did with a team with their product strategy, which was about using AI to create, critique, rewrite, create, critique, rewrite until it was blown up. And basically, if you keep on going, things get together. The last, and we're almost at the end here, is about strategic pauses. Uh, I love your quotes here, Rick. It really, I see this stuff coming in my chat. And I got another screen over here. We should do a talk together once. I'd love to read your book, by the way. It's
Love to.
So as for me, it's about strategic pauses because that's where brilliance lies. Picasso stepped back, he looked, reflected, then painted again. You should do the same thing. You shouldn't just say, fantastic, I'm done, go off to the next thing. Stop, think, what did I learn? How could I see things different? What should I do next? There's a really cool study that was done by The Economist where they compared startup companies of two different types, one which were characterized by go, 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 and a group which was characterized by taking strategic pauses. The strategic pauses group got 40% more sales and 52% more profits because they stopped to think. Can you think of a better reason to stop and think? Now, the last part of this is if you want to work together with AI, you need to shift your mindset from using to working with it. And that means to have different principles on how to do things. The first is thinking about AI as a team member, and you work with team members different than you work with tools. A tool gives you a wrong answer, you say you're done. Okay, a team member gives you a wrong answer, you say, oh, shoot, I didn't see it that way. Oh, maybe that's interesting. I could look at it that way. You need to be patient because your AI teammate's going to give you wrong answers, and you need to give feedback and learn from each other. So collaboration is a two-way street going back and forth. And I'm going to close out with something completely different. So I'm asked to talk at a lot of conferences, and a lot of times there's a question is, can we change the way people work with AI? Sometimes I show them research papers, but oftentimes I talk about my mom. My mom is 82 years young, and I can't use old in my mom in the same sentence. Her and my dad just got back from a trip to Europe. They were jet lagged, cranky, and hungry, and I probably talked a bit too much about AI when they were here. My mom called. She said, Bryan, we just got home. We're starving. Too tired to go out for food. Too tired to do anything. Ha, I bet your AI thingy can't help with that. I said, Mom, what's in the fridge? She said, I don't know. What a stupid question. We're just too tired. I said, well, why don't you go take a picture of what's in your fridge? And she said, well, you know what? I see a zucchini, some cherry tomatoes, a lemon. And I said, well, you know what? Send that picture over to ChatGPT and ask it a few questions about what you could make for dinner. She tried, and then she said something that made me smile. Ha, I would have never thought of that. That AI stuff works. She came back with roasted tomato zucchini pasta and lemon and garlic oil. She was plating it like a Food Network star. I guarantee you, if my mom can work with AI, you can work with AI. So let's go back to Picasso for a minute. You could ask, would he have used AI? I have no doubt in my mind that he would have used AI. None whatsoever. He used anything he could use to get inspiration. But he wouldn't have used AI as an oracle. He would have used it as a muse. He would have asked it to challenge him, confuse him, surprise him, give it a weird answer, and he'd ask for 10 more. You don't need to be a genius to use AI as your muse. You don't need to code. You just need to work with AI. Keep asking questions, keep thinking. Everybody has an AI muse. The question is, will you use yours? Now, what I do is I do events, I do keynotes, I do workshops, and this is a horrible situation because you're talking to a computer screen. You can't get up, you can't walk around, you don't see people laughing. I saw you laugh a couple of times. That's good. But the keynotes are fun, they're interesting. We also do trainings and stuff like that. And if you want, come back to me. By the way, my book is coming out soon, and because you came today, you're going to get an email offering a chance to buy it for 99 cents for 7 days. And
Uh-huh.
if you're willing to give me 99 cents for your time today, I'd be very happy because I will get my book sale started. But more importantly, I'd like to end with a challenge. It's easy to go from this talk to say, ha, that's done. I got something to do. My challenge for you would be to actually use what you learned. After we're done, record some thoughts about the talk. Go stream of conscious. Just talk. Ask ChatGPT to summarize your thoughts and make a LinkedIn post or send a letter to your boss or use one of the tools here. If you want, tag me. If you do something that makes me smile, I'll offer you a free 1 hour talk or a 1 hour training session at your company. And I have a hint for you. If you tell me a story about your mom or your grandma, you're almost certain to win. I've gotten probably 30 of these so far. So the next steps, do something. If you want, take a screenshot of this, put it up someplace. It'll be a good reminder. Uh, Schedule some time to do something. Habits are not built automatically. The habits are built through action. And try to do something. If you want to be nice, you could give me some feedback on this talk. I have a challenge is I have an opportunity to do a TED talk on this. And right now it is too long. So I have to figure out stuff to knock off in the talk. So if you give me things that you liked or didn't like and stuff like that, that would really help me. If you want, schedule a chat with me. Tell me, tell me about your mom. I'll go forward from there. So that was my chat for today. And I don't know how many people stuck to the end. Bernat, I see you're big on my screen right now. Hey, hey.
Chocolate. Thank you.
So what did you guys think of the chat? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, it's good. It's nice.
Will you do anything with it? That's the bigger question. Probably not. Margaret, what did you think?
I liked it. I think there's a lot of good in it, and
Fun.
I do this thing a lot where I ask it to sort of like tell me where I'm wrong or take everything that's in this chat, zoom out and give me an overview of the strengths, the weaknesses, that kind of thing. Where are my blind spots? It's a favorite question of mine.
Ah,
Yeah,
super people here. You know, I trained 30,000 people last year. Do you know how many people do that out of habit? Probably 100. So you and Rick are stars because I mean this is really the trick of getting more out of AI. It's not to say it's not a search engine, give me stuff, but it's helped
yeah,
me on how to do this.
That's it. That's it, Brian. I think your muse metaphor is perfect because it reframes what it is. And I think we're so used to getting answers. We're so used to not taking responsibility for having agency and pursuing our ideas. We don't like to be challenged. We like to live in an echo chamber because, as you know, social media has put us in the space where we just want to hear confirmation bias. We want to. The only time that I fault in it is I trust it too much because I'm an optimist because I want to see some amazing magic happen when it comes back to me.
Yeah.
So it's a reflection of who you are. So if you want to be confirmed about what you're thinking, what you're doing, you're never going to grow and learn. And learning is about being challenged and say, what did I not think about as my favorite one now? And why is that important to me? If you work in ChatGPT, for example, its context window of who you are, it will get to know, the questions that you need to be asked, but you have to ask them. You're the driver of this rocket ship of the mind. And that's the whole theory in the book. And I just sent you a link to my book, and I'd love to get your peer review about it. But it's to reframe how we think about what it is, because we haven't been faced with an entity like this that can think autonomously, that can challenge us, that can iterate, and that can go out and research something to such depth, it blows my mind.
Yeah,
So
no,
I've lived 24/7 for the last 4 years, doing nothing but this, going around the world speaking about it. And I step in all these conversations, and it's the same thing over and over again, is that we have abdicated responsibility for everything,
mm,
and including our ability to grow. And I think that we get what I call the kind of a mind-blowing idea about when ChatGPT was asked what humans didn't know about themselves. They're self-domesticating apes. And what it meant by that, and I've written 3 books about it already, is that we abdicate responsibility, so we elect a president that doesn't work for us because we don't want the problems and the difficulty of all the noise. We want someone just to get it done, and tell us it's going to be a great place that we live in. And we have the U.S. government that we have now. But we also don't do that. We don't take responsibility and agency for our own growth. So if we're born of the principles that you're responsible for making the world a better place, and you want to take your powers, whatever they are, and use them to be agentic in the world and to be a dangerous man, I like to call it, to challenge, the status quo, to challenge yourself like Picasso did. He was living in a world that did not understand anything about who he was. So
mm,
he's a great example because he thought differently. So my second book is Thinking Differently. And it thinks about, well, what would a jazz musician think about this concept and how would they frame it? And then what would a physicist do? And then what would a Buddhist monk do? So if we frame our questions and we take responsibility for our mirror image, when you feed into it beauty, it spits out even more beauty. It's an amplifier of whatever you put into it.
got it.
Anyway,
You're actually very eloquent, Rick. I
thank
really,
you. I spent a lot of time trying to do that.
He's a teacher.
I wasn't always.
no,
But
but
yeah, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, every Thursday night, East Coast time in the United States, I do a Zoom call, and you all are welcome to join if you'd like.
yeah, put the link in. That'd be cool. So
Yeah.
I think, what comes out for me when I'm listening to this, it's about agency. It's about taking responsibility.
Yep.
Mm. And one of the things that's really interesting is actually if you start using AI in this way, I can actually ask AI, what would be a question that I would normally ask right now?
That's it.
And then it will actually ask this question, which is the challenging type of question that Marguerite was presenting. And it actually does the things that I've been doing on an ongoing basis and truly amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a comment or a question? I got time. We got 4 minutes left. If anybody wants to raise a question or a comment.
Mm.
And if not, we can leave it at there because I think we left at a really good point. What I would like to do, Rick, is if you would be willing to share the link to your talk, I think a few people here would be interested. And I would be really indebted to you people if you're willing to take a minute to fill in the feedback form, because when I do this talk on stage, talking to people, it's about 24 minutes long. And what I need to do is cut 7 minutes out. The thing that people have been telling me is all this stuff about Picasso is not that interesting, but I find it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. I mean, will you remember that? Or is it just wasted space?
No, why? No.
Brian, may I make a suggestion on this? Because I was actually reflecting on this Picasso analogy, where I was thinking this would work perfectly with certain types of audiences, but others might really not connect.
Yeah.
Not everyone, depending on your job, role, interest, is kind of
Yeah.
will be able to associate with the Muse analogy. And
A lot of people don't want to muse, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and so I would just ask yourself, who are you going to talk to, or what kind of conversation do you want to generate? What would be your ideal audience? And from there, decide whether this Picasso thing makes sense or not.
Yeah. So if
Um,
somebody has an idea for an alternative to Picasso, I'm very interested 'cause it's something where it's interesting. So I'm actually doing a talk at the Belgian Post in Belgium coming up, and I'm debating whether I talk about muses there, and I'm thinking probably not.
What I would recommend, and this is stealing right from my book, Steve Jobs' Think Different
Mhm.
is how I would frame it. So it's not a muse, it's about thinking different, the way that if you think about the Think Different campaign, it was everybody from Amelia Earhart to Picasso to Buckminster Fuller. These were people that are crazy enough to look at AI as a muse, in a way, but a way of changing your thinking patterns and not accepting what's fed to you because we're at a point in society where we are being mediated at. We
Yeah.
are not in a conversation with knowledge. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a quote worth running around your head a little bit. I had a whole thing where I thought about the metaphor of a garden, and I did a 400-page book based on tending to your garden and how the metaphor was, and being there was a movie and blah blah blah. And then I ended the book and I said, "Shit, this doesn't work for everything. The metaphor gets in the way of the knowledge."
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I ended up with Think Different, and I used the if you think about the people like Maya Angelou, how differently she thinks than Richard Feynman, that's just different thinking. And if you do that and you approach it as, a thing,
I
it
think
just kind of reframes it.
I, I I don't particularly like Steve Jobs as a human being.
Yeah,
So
no, I hate him as a human being, but the idea that thinking different was the key to offering an object to the world that no one knew they wanted, and it is the most valuable object in your possession today. I kid you not. Because think about just getting rid of your phone, period. You never get to see it again, never get to use it. Look
yeah.
at what he did, right? So that's thinking different. So you can hate him, you can vilify him, as he says in his own poem, right?
Yeah.
But he's one of those crazy ones that didn't think he couldn't change the world, so he did.
Yeah.
And that's the statement that lands for me.
Okay.
Imagine that you can change the world. Now, how are you going to do it unless you face your fears? You let it challenge you, let it become so every day you be a better version of yourself because you have a conversation with it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's end it on that note. I think the opportunity here, think different with AI, work different with AI, see it different, use a few sparks in your life, and life will be better. And I thank you all for coming. Thank you very
Namaste. Thank you.
much.
Bye bye.
Ciao,
Nice
ciao.
evening. Bye
Ciao.
bye.
I
Bye.